Bonjour French students, bienvenue au vidéo 3 du chapitre 6. So welcome to the third video of chapter 6. And in this video you will be introduced to the verbs vouloir, pouvoir, et devoir. The thing that's easy to remember about all of these verbs is they all have the same OIR ending. Okay, the meanings of those verbs, vouloir is to want. Pouvoir is can, may, or be able to. And devoir is must or have to. So pouvoir and devoir are kind of like what we call in English modal verbs, like can, may, might, should, could, must, have to. We call them modal verbs because they kind of express a mood about the activities you're talking about. So you can say, I can do that. You have the ability to. It's sort of like expressing how you feel about your ability to do that activity. I may be able to do that. It's like 50% likely. Or I must do that. It means you have to do it, like there's no choice about it. So I think they're called modal verbs for that reason, because they sort of communicate that feeling that you have about doing that activity. So there's often going to be an infinitive verb that comes right after these verbs, like je veux sortir ce soir. I want to go out this evening. So it's my desire to go out. Or je peux réussir cet examen. I can pass this test. So I have the confidence that I can do that. Okay, and devoir, as it tells us here, also means to owe. All right, so you'll see on this next slide here that we have the conjugation chart for these. They're somewhat irregular forms, so it's really good to memorize these verbs and just know them like automatically. Okay, so we have for vouloir and for pouvoir, they're very similar in form. We have je veux, tu veux, il, elle, on veut, so they're all silent letters at the end. Nous voulons, vous voulez, or il, elle, veulent. And the same thing with pouvoir, it has a very similar pattern. It's je peux, tu peux, il, elle, on peut, nous pouvons, vous pouvez, il, elle, peuvent. And then finally, devoir is je dois, tu dois, il, elle, on doit, nous devons, vous devez, ils, elles doivent. And if you look at the passé composé forms for each of these, for vouloir is j'ai voulu, pouvoir is j'ai pu, and passé composé for devoir is j'ai dû. So they're kind of irregular past participles that you see for each of those verbs. Okay, so I can use these to express lots of moods that I have about different activities. So, je veux sortir, I want to go out, mais je ne peux pas, oh, I cannot. Okay, je dois travailler, so I have to or I must work. Je dois 100 euros à mes parents. So I can also use this to mean owe, and notice you can use them back to back like that. It's the context that makes it clear. Je dois travailler, so it's kind of like I'm owing myself to my work, if you want to think of it that way. Je dois 100 euros, so I owe literally, like, in my hands, 100 euros. So two different meanings, context determines that meaning. All right, and in passé composé, devoir can also mean that someone had to do something or must have done something. Again, the context is going to help you understand that. So in this example sentence, Michelle n'est pas chez elle, so she's not at her place. Elle a dû partir, so she had to leave, she must have left. I think it could probably, it depends on what the situation is. It depends on whether you're very certain about what she did or if you're just kind of making an assumption. Oh, she had to leave. It sounds very certain, right? Elle a dû partir. Or if you're not that certain, the tone of your voice, the situation that you're in the middle of will make that context clear. She must have left. It's like a guess, right? But it can mean either one of those things. Okay. Il n'a pas pu sortir parce qu'il a dû travailler. So he wasn't able to go out because he had to work. Okay, so it really just depends on the situation, but you can know that it can mean both of those things. Okay, so this is a pretty short lesson. Basically, all you need to know with vouloir, pouvoir, et devoir is the meanings: to want, to be able to, or can or may for pouvoir. Devoir can mean like an obligation or to owe something to somebody. Just be aware of the conjugations of those verbs. I think they're pretty easy to memorize, and the different ways that you can use them to express what you want to do, what you don't want to do, what you have to do, maybe what you owe somebody, and in passé composé also that devoir can have a couple of different meanings. So that's basically it for those 3 verbs. They'll be helpful to us as we move on to the other parts of this chapter. So, à la prochaine!